Am I the asshole for refusing to change my baby's name? When my husband and I found out that I was pregnant with my first baby at 24, we were overjoyed. My parents were the first to know, and they too were ecstatic. My husband's parents, however, were not. They're super religious and didn't approve of the fact that we got pregnant so young. At that point, we had both finished college and had been maintaining well-paying jobs for several years. We were settled with the house thanks to our generous amount of savings. So we just ignored the negativity and thrived off of the continual support of the rest of the family. When we found out that we were having a little girl, we started thinking of names. We decided not to have a gender reveal party since we thought it was a waste of money. Instead, we told close family and made a Facebook post to announce it to everyone else. When we finally decided on the name Blair, my in-laws finally came out of the woodwork. They hadn't been involved in the pregnancy at any point, but this seemed to enrage them beyond belief. They berated me for not choosing a biblical or family name and demanded that we change it. I politely told them that I was an atheist and we would not be choosing a biblical name simply because they wanted it. My mother-in-law called me to tell me I'm selfish and disrespectful, and my father-in-law refused to speak to me. They harassed us both about the name change, and it got to the point where my mother-in-law would be calling me at all hours of the night. We finally told them that we would change the name so that they would leave us alone about the matter, but when I held my baby girl in my hands, I announced that I would be sticking with the original name choice, Blair. Months later, my in-laws still refused to speak with us or see their grandchild. So, am I the asshole for not wanting to change her name? Am I the asshole for fake sleeping all night to see if my wife is lying? The past couple of months, my wife had been complaining about our cats. She's been claiming that the cats wake her up constantly and that she's frustrated every night that she has to get up and open the door for the cats. Or the cats keep making noises, or the cats keep jumping on her. It got me to the point where she started saying she wants me to get rid of them. I've told her I've never seen or heard any of this, but she claims I sleep through it all. She kept telling me that she was getting less and less sleep and kept acting aggressive, blaming lack of sleep from the cats and that if I didn't get rid of them, she'd leave me. I legitimately started considering giving the cats to my sister until I noticed something. One morning, she claimed she had gotten up multiple times throughout the night to help the cats. She listed a bunch of times. I thought it was weird because I had been up until 4 a.m. and she claimed that she got up at 1 a.m. to open the door for them and a few times around 3 a.m. because they were meowing and jumping on her. I was in the bedroom the entire time while she slept, and I know none of this happened. Things weren't adding up, so I decided to run a test. I waited until she said she was going to bed, then I let the cats out of our bedroom. I lowered my phone brightness and faked going to sleep. I just laid there in my bed for the entire night bored, but I definitely did not fall asleep. I made sure to make timestamps every 30 minutes on my phone through Discord just to be sure. I marked down every noise my cats made. One cat had jumped down from something and made a little noise around 3:18 a.m. and one ate food relatively quietly by the bedroom door at 4:57 a.m. Other than that, nothing happened. Sure enough, my wife slept from 11 p.m. until 9 a.m. and that morning she claimed she had woken up at least 7 times to open doors from the cat noises and cats jumping on her. At this point, I was pissed because she was clearly lying to me. I was exhausted and fed up with the lies, so I bluntly called her out on it. I told her, "That's funny. I stayed up all night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room at all last night. I have timestamps and everything, so you've been lying to me and trying to convince me to get rid of my cats? Why?" She just sat there quietly shaking and looking pissed, then got up and left without answering. She came back hours later and ignored me whenever I talked, and when I asked her how I'm the bad guy in the situation, she finally said that I was treating her like a child by lying about sleeping and staying up all night just to see if she was lying or not. And that making timestamps and everything as if I was an investigator was going too far and makes me an obsessive asshole. I did it because she was threatening to make me get rid of the cats or she'd leave me, and her claims didn't add up. So am I the obsessive asshole here? Update, my wife has been Baker acted. She did not hurt herself, just said something concerning in public. I got a call from the hospital this morning asking me to head over to some family therapy. Apparently she finally wanted to talk. I'll be honest, I'm pretty pissed at the reason why she's been so hateful towards my cats. It's absolutely insane. It's nothing that anyone has suggested. She's not cheating, she's not sick physically or mentally, she's not bored of the relationship or looking for an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story she was writing. She's hated both cats ever since. I mean, that sucks, but it's not worth trying to emotionally blackmail me into getting rid of them. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and why she'd been lying and refused to talk about it when I asked. Her answer was, because you wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise, and explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon them for her, she took offense and made it a goal to have me pick her over them. Sickening. Don't know why she actually admitted to it all. The woman with us asked me how I felt about all of it, and I just told the truth. I told her it was a nice run, but I'm probably going to want a divorce. I was asked why, and I told them. I see a new hateful, malicious side of her that I want nothing to do with. She was so set on getting rid of the cats over a fan fiction being ruined that she manipulated her husband. My wife started shouting at me that I betrayed her and that I'm a scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't give ultimatums like she gave. It sucks that she's been Baker acted and all, I guess, but it's for the best right now. She'll have time to process it in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. Bad husband, I know. I'm almost sure I'm going for divorce. I'm very worried about having her in the same house as my cats. I want my cats safe and I don't want to worry about them being harmed or disappearing. Screw that. I guess I'll do what almost all of you suggested. Keep the cats, rehome the wife. Not how I wanted it to end, but life isn't always nice. Am I the asshole for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I, 36-year-old male, have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mom had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend who is 21 years old. Then quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend my life with her. So I proposed in May and she moved in, and our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, who is 25, keep calling my fiance the kid. My fiance decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity she needed to tend to. So yesterday, when my daughter once again made up the excuse, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling to a diner, and I realized she was grabbing lunch with my younger sister. I was beyond furious. First at my sister for enabling toxic behavior, and second at my daughter for lying to her future stepmom. I ended up taking her car keys away from her. Her aunt then called and said I had no right to do so. I explained that she would not be getting the car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the asshole for not condoning lying? I just want my fiance to be accepted into the family. What a moron. Like, what did you think? You think your daughter's gonna accept a girl who's 5 years older than her, like who could be her big sister as her mom? Like, men are so dumb sometimes. Am I the asshole for inviting my girlfriend on an expensive vacation and expecting her to pay all of her share? My girlfriend and I, my parents, my brother and his wife all went on vacation in another country a week ago. My girlfriend knew this trip was coming up and took on a second job waitressing on the weekends for several months to get ready for it. My brother and I were the ones who did most of the planning of the itinerary, although we did ask everyone else for input. For background, I make around $150,000 as an IT consultant. My girlfriend is a teacher making around $45,000. My parents are pretty affluent, as well as my brother and sister-in-law. We have always split things 50-50 in the 2 years we have been together. There were a few times on the vacation where she did not go on the outings with us, wine tasting, scuba diving, etc. She also would only eat 2 meals a day, stating simply that she was on a budget. My family does favor more high-end, expensive places. My parents thought it was very strange that she only eats 2 meals a day, although she normally eats 3. I mentioned how I heard her stomach growling one night and said I was concerned about her having an eating disorder. When we got back home, I asked her why she skipped out on several of the outings and only ate 2 meals a day. She got teary-eyed and said that 3 meals a day wasn't physically feasible for her, and neither were the outings that she chose not to go on. She went on 3 of 6. She said she was not expecting everything to cost so much and she was overwhelmed. She also said she doesn't know if this is going to work long term if she is expected to go on vacations like that with people who make much more than her. I feel bad that I did not pick up on her discomfort sooner, but we did agree to split everything 50-50, and I don't know why she agreed to come if the cost was an issue. So am I the asshole for picking an expensive vacation? Am I the asshole for telling the truth at my best friend's wedding during my toast? I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend got married last week. I just bought a house and my wife is expecting our son in November, so I let him know I was limited in what I could contribute financially. But I did tell him I would try my best. So I went to the bachelor party in Miami, I rented the tux, and paid for mine and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal dinner. I also had a gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but we will get to why I didn't. His fiancée at the time would text me multiple times a day with updates. Fine. I didn't always respond, and it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. She texted me for the following reasons. 1. My wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy at all. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. 2. She was not going to order any special food for my wife. No one asked her to. My wife was fine with whatever she was going to be served. 3. I was not helping the groom enough. He had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs, so I had to help him with those things according to her. 4. She said if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the bar bill. I don't even know what that means. 5. She had to read and improve my speech before the rehearsal dinner and wanted to be included as much as my buddy. She told me to make things up if I had to. I was not allowed to include anyone but the two of them, and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't include her. 6. Her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible. I was just so aggravated, I spoke to my buddy to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play ball this one time, it's her day, and to cut him a break because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. The day of, all the bride and my best friend do is scold me, berate me, and bark orders. I head down to the bar for the drink. The bride's mother is there and warns me not to get drunk because I ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw. I didn't give them the card with the cash, and in the speech, I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished him the best and told him I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. So, Am I the asshole? Yeah, you are, but good job. Am I the asshole for giving my soon-to-be ex-husband an ultimatum in regards to custody? Look, I know the title already sounds bad, but hear me out. A little background. Me, 32 female, and my husband, 32 male, are currently separated and currently work in different cities. He's in New York and I'm in Massachusetts. We have 2 kids together, an 8-year-old boy and 5-year-old girl. Some of my family has a mild to extreme allergy to cannabis. Both of my kids are allergic, but my son's is anaphylactic severe, medically tested. My husband and his new girlfriend are staying together because she lost her job and apartment. I am pregnant. It happened pre-separation and I found out after. So what happened is that my husband has a new girlfriend, 28-year-old female, and she's a long-time stoner. He has explained our kids' allergies to her and how she can't smoke when the kids are with him. After arguing, she decided that when the kids are with him, she'll stick to edibles, so it's less likely they'll breathe it in. The only thing is, she believes that we are making up their weed allergy. She's extremely convinced that I'm anti-weed and I'm trying to convince my kids that they are allergic so that they never try it. A couple of weeks back, the kids were at his house and he was at work, so his girlfriend was watching them. She decided to play nurse with my son and let out her edibles, letting him believe it was candy. You can assume what happened. My son is fine thanks to 911. I get a call from the hospital and get my ass on the first flight I can find. I get to the hospital and immediately blow up at my husband, who is very clearly upset. After the fight, I basically tell him that unless he breaks up with his girlfriend, I'm fighting for full custody. Some friends and family are telling me I'm the asshole for threatening to take our kids away from him when the incident wasn't his direct fault. Also, the girl is telling everyone that she didn't mean to leave the edibles out and it's not her fault that my son ate them. So, am I the asshole for fighting for full custody? Am I the asshole for ruining a pregnancy announcement by telling the woman she may have taken the wrong test? My husband and I recently invited 8 friends for lunch and we were asked if we could also include a new couple, Doug and Sasha. We have never met them before, but everyone who was invited had, so we said sure. At one point during dinner, Sasha needed to use the restroom, and I told her to use the master suite since the other bathroom was occupied. I was helping my husband in the kitchen when Sasha came out of the room bawling and holding something in her hand. At first, I thought she hurt herself, but she said something to Doug that caused him to drop to his knees, cry, and begin kissing her stomach. All of our friends began screaming, jumping, and crying. It was insane. Finally, Sasha tells my husband and I that she is pregnant. Of course, we congratulate both of them, and then I give them a bag to put the pregnancy test in. I will admit, I did find it odd that she brought a pregnancy test and took it at a complete stranger's house, but I didn't say that out loud. Once everyone sat down to eat, Sasha looked over to me and said, "I hope you don't mind that I used one of your pregnancy tests. I just saw them and I had to." Looking at her confused, I responded, "I don't have any pregnancy tests." Sasha says yes, in your drawer. I asked Sasha if she meant the blue box in the back of my lower left drawer that was closed. She seemed to realize I was pointing out that she basically snooped around and she sheepishly said the box said pregnancy for pregnancy tests. I said, "Sasha, the brand is Pregmate and those are ovulation tests. I do not own pregnancy tests. Did you take an ovulation test?" Her husband freaked the absolute F out at me and said his wife was not an idiot and can read a box. He insisted Sasha get the test out now and show me that I'm wrong. Sasha refused, saying she didn't need to prove anything to a complete stranger and insisted they leave immediately. One of the couples thought that Doug and Sasha acted completely ridiculous, while the other 3 couples thought I should have pulled Sasha aside to discuss my concerns and said I was the asshole for saying something in front of everyone. Honestly, the whole situation caught me off guard and everything happened so quickly. The whole thing was bizarre and confusing. I just didn't have the time to put the pieces together mentally before asking about the ovulation tests. Also, I found out later through one of my friends that Sasha did take the ovulation test and she is not pregnant. Did I mess up by buying my 2-year-old daughter a Peppa the Pig piñata for her birthday? This well-meaning gesture turned into tragedy happened today. Like many toddlers, my kid loves that horrible little creature called Peppa. While I was shopping for birthday supplies this week, I saw a Peppa piñata and instantly thought 2 things. The kid is going to love this and I'm going to love seeing Peppa get deleted with a stick. She saw it a couple of times during the week and each time she was like, "Peppa, hi Peppa, that's Peppa." So I knew without a shadow of doubt I had made the right choice. Cue the main event. In one corner we have Peppa and in the other corner we have 15 older kids jacked up on cupcakes and soda. They don't care about Peppa, they only care about getting their necks fixed and they know that fix is inside the paper piglet. My wife is holding up my daughter and I'm standing beside them. The first kid steps up and the adults are cheering and the kids are hyped. 3 swings and 3 misses. The families are laughing and cheering as the next kid steps up. First swing, miss. No issues yet. Second swing, some light contact is made, and this is where it goes downhill. I look over and see visible concern on my daughter's face. Third swing, contact. Full on twack. The parents cheer, and the kids are now at a near fever pitch of excitement. Except for one. The one whose birthday we're here to celebrate. She bursts into tears, and I look at my wife in that moment, and we both realize we fucked up. She's 2. She doesn't know what the heck a piñata is. This is her first time seeing one. What she is seeing is her favorite cartoon character getting beat down by her cousins. Babe, maybe you should take her inside. I don't think this is going to end the way we thought it was going to. Yeah, you're right. That should be the end of the story, right? A lesson learned on what not to do next time. Nope. My wife needed to use the bathroom, so my daughter was wandering around the living room. My mom, who was in the upstairs bathroom, comes downstairs and saw my daughter and the excitement going on outside and scooped her up and brought her back outside. I'm on the other side of the yard as I see my mom come out with my daughter and I start walking towards them. Too late. She stops at the end of the deck, giving my daughter an unobstructed view of what happened next. The kill shot. One of the older kids let loose a thunderous haymaker and explodes Peppa. The parents cheer and the kids lose their mind. They're fighting each other for candy over the corpse of Peppa. My kid unfortunately lost her goddamn mind. Full on ugly cry while muttering, "Peppa, Peppa, Peppa," in between sobs. Thankfully, kids that age have short memories, but it took her a good 45 minutes to fully settle down from watching the murder of her beloved Peppa. Am I the asshole for letting my daughter wear an expensive dress to my sister's house? Me, my husband, and our 15-year-old daughter, Georgia, went to my sister's place for lunch this past weekend. Georgia is very bright. She completed her exams early and is now studying more advanced material. She's a big fashionista, a lot more than I was at that age. She loves pretty clothes and outfits, and we're happy to get her as much as we can, provided she behaves well and keeps up the good grades. The lunch with my sister was fairly casual, but Georgia wore her new pink dress. My sister isn't as well off as we are, unfortunately, and she is raising 3 children on her own, and her job isn't a high-paying one. In the past, she asked me if Georgia could tone down her outfits when we come to visit because she doesn't want her kids being upset because they can't afford things like that. I do get my sister's point, but it's not down to me to police what Georgia wears. I've spoken to Georgia about it, but I left the final decision to her. Anyway, so we went for lunch and Georgia ended up getting into an argument when my sister's 13-year-old daughter Lucy asked about the dress and where it was from. Georgia answered that it didn't matter because Lucy couldn't afford it anyway. We told Georgia to shut up as soon as the comment left her lips, but it soon ended up with Georgia and Lucy screaming at each other. My sister made the kids vanilla milkshakes, and Lucy decided to throw hers all over Georgia, ruining the dress. Georgia burst into tears, and to be fair, my sister did bring her a change of clothes. I said that if the dress was permanently ruined, I wanted my sister to reimburse us. My sister has refused and said that it was our responsibility because my daughter wore an expensive dress despite being warned not to. The dress cost a couple of $100 and washing it has failed to completely remove the stains. Frankly, I don't care about my sister's warnings. We can't make Georgia wear what she doesn't want to, and it's not our problem that she can't control her child and stop her from ruining a beautiful dress. So, am I the asshole? Oh my god, what an asshole, what a bitch. What kind of sister are you, bro? Your sister's going through shit and you're gonna be like, reimburse me for my daughter's dress? Like, you could, oh my god, like, alhamdulillah, oh my god, what is wrong with people? What's the difference between you and strangers if you're gonna ask for money back for a dress? Like, chill out. Am I the asshole for catfishing my underage sister on Tinder and humiliating her in order to teach her a lesson? Last week, I was using my younger sister's phone because mine was dead and I needed to call a friend. Dialing my friend's number, I saw a Tinder notification of some dude messaging her. Immediately, I asked her why she's on Tinder. She's 17, and she grabbed her phone back and said, "None of your business." I decided as her big brother that I wanted to have a little fun with this. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's just swiping for fun. So I didn't want to go straight to ratting her out to our parents. To test if she was just using for fun, I decided I was going to make a Tinder profile of someone else and message her to see if she responds. I asked a good friend of mine from back in college who happens to be a male model if he'd mind if I used his pictures and explained the situation. He thought it would be hilarious and told me to go for it. I created the account, set my age to 22, set my swipe radius to a mile, and quickly found my sister's account. Her age was set to 19. Lie, she's still in high school. So I was definitely more suspicious of her now. I super liked, and less than an hour later she matched and messaged me. I decided to set up a date to a fancy restaurant downtown for Sunday afternoon and told her we could head to my place afterwards. She was completely receptive and said she'd meet me there. She told our parents she was hanging out with one of her track friends and spending the night at her place. After she left, I told our parents everything and showed them all of the messages. They were pissed, and I suggested we all go to the restaurant. My dad and I just went instead and saw her sitting at a table alone, all dolled up waiting for Jim. My dad went up to her and said, "Jim's not coming," and she screamed and asked what we were doing there. I told her there was no Jim and that it was effing stupid of her to try to be meeting grown men on Tinder at that age. My dad harped onto that and lectured her about lying and meeting strange men on the internet and being so willing to go back to a stranger's place. We were a bit loud, so people were starting to look at us, and my sister eventually bursted into tears and ran out. I told my friends in a group chat the situation, and they all agreed it was hysterical, except 2 of my female friends who said I was an asshole and cruel to her. My other friends defended me and said she needed to be taught a lesson. Now I've been wondering who's right and maybe if I went too far. Am I the asshole for not letting a girl check my phone to make sure I wasn't taking pictures of her? I'm at the gym today and I'm walking towards an empty squat rack. Right in front of me is another girl doing squats. While walking up, I briefly noticed that her leggings are see-through, and when she bends down in her squats, you can easily tell she's not wearing underwear. That's not my business, that's her choice, but it made me uncomfortable to take a rack that was kind of behind her. I had been waiting my entire gym session for one of these racks to open up, and this was my last lift before leaving, so I went ahead and took it. I went through my workout as normal. After every set, I check my phone for 5 to 20 seconds. I track every single set for every single lift in a spreadsheet to note how much I lifted and for how many reps. Sometimes I need to remind myself what I did last week to make sure I'm progressing. Sometimes I'm checking the time or changing a song on Spotify. Tonight specifically, there was a very important basketball game being played, so I wanted to keep up with the score, so I used my phone a lot at the gym. I finished up my third set when the girl turns around, walks up to me with her phone up, yelling, "What the F are you doing? Effing perv, stop taking pictures of me." I'm caught completely off guard, but I explained that I'm just taking notes on what I'm lifting and that I'm not paying attention to her at all. She's being extra loud so other people are looking at me, plus she's recording me, and she demands I go through my pics and videos to show her what I was recording and I delete the ones I took of her. I tried to again explain I didn't record anything of her at all. She's yelling that if I have nothing to hide, I should have no problem showing her, so I insist on going to the gym management. Once at the front, we both explain our stories. The normal gym attendee asks me if I'm willing to show her, a neutral third party, my phone. She also says if I have nothing to hide, it's not a big deal and we can squash it right now. I refuse. I have my own uncensored pics in there plus those of my girlfriend. I'm not gonna let anyone force me to show them for some BS. I do show her my spreadsheet, which shows it's been revised over 15 times in the past 50 minutes, so that proves what I was using my phone for. That was received well, but they still expected me to prove my innocence. I told them they needed to review the cameras. Apparently, only the manager has access to them, so I was told he'd call me before the end of the night. My girlfriend tells me I should have just let them go through my phone because she doesn't mind, and it would have cleared this all up. But I do mind. I get that someone wouldn't want someone taking pics of them, but violating my privacy to prove I wasn't taking pics of you crosses a line for me. Later that night, the manager called. He checked the footage. He couldn't see what was on my screen, but he said it looked like I had my phone pointed towards the ground right in front of me the whole time. In his opinion, it wasn't high enough to even take a picture of her and never angled it in her direction. Apparently, I was gonna get banned from the gym if the cameras didn't absolve me. And also, I'm not the first person that has been accused before by this girl, but she legit had a creeper before, so I kinda understand where she was coming from. Am I the asshole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? One of my 29-year-old male best friend Carla, 31-year-old female, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard type of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now, and originally it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has lots of open space for their reception, a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. Of course I said yes. She and her fiance Rick were very happy. The thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college, but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife, we got married, and Carla met Rick, and now here they are. Now my wife knows I went out with Carla back in college and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not. It's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick found out recently and not in the best way. Not sure how, but from what I heard from friends is that one mutual friend told him no idea why we used to date. Not only that, but apparently Carla said a couple of years ago she was still in love with me when she was already dating Rick. I don't have actual confirmation if that's exactly what he was told. All Carla's told me is that Rick was told about our past and he's angry at her for never saying anything. It became quite the drama and I didn't hear from her over a month until now. She told me they're still going to couples counseling and that the wedding is still on, but Rick requested that I not attend. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable. Then I asked the obvious question, where are they going to hold the wedding then? To my surprise, she said they still want to have it at our place. Rick said so too, and in my mind I'm going, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiance years ago at the wedding, but still wants the wedding at his house. So my wife and I are expected to just not be at our house that weekend. I told Carla no, they're going to have to find someplace else since we're not going to simply leave our home to them for the weekend. Not only for safety reasons, but it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have their wedding at my house. They really want their wedding here though, and because of that, I've been bugged by not only her and Rick, but also some friends who think I'm being a petty asshole for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, I don't think I am. It just doesn't make sense at all to have to leave our own place for a wedding we're no longer welcome to and leaving our home totally vulnerable. Still, I'm being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for not inviting my daughter to my wedding? I, 46-year-old male, and getting married to my fiance, 39-year-old female. We have been together for 3 years. I have 2 daughters, 18 and 19, from previous relationships. My fiance is a very sophisticated person and has very exquisite tastes. She also doesn't really care for young children, and this has created tension between her and my youngest daughter. While our plans have been delayed due to global circumstances, our plans to get married are finally going ahead. It's going to be a very lavish and expensive wedding. Due to the nature of the wedding and my fiance's preference, our wedding is also going to be child-free. We will, however, be inviting my oldest as she is no longer a child, and because, unlike my youngest, her and my fiance get along well. However, I didn't realize that my youngest expected to come to the wedding. She tried to tag along with my fiance and oldest when they were going dress shopping because she thought she was going to need a dress too. I explained to her that the wedding was going to be for adults only and that she wouldn't be attending. She started crying and getting mad, which stressed out my fiance. She has been distraught about this for days and hasn't let it go. My parents came by to visit one day and my youngest told them what happened. When they asked for clarification on the situation, I explained to them that my daughter wouldn't be attending the wedding because the child-free rule applied to her as well. Besides, this wedding would not be suitable for a child and I don't want my fiance to have to deal with my daughter on the most important day of her life. Oh my gosh! I had to reread that shit. My parents told me I was being a terrible father by prioritizing my fiancé over my daughter and that on the day of the wedding, they would take my daughter out for a special day, which means they wouldn't be in the wedding. I told them that they couldn't do that. Even if they didn't attend the wedding, I wouldn't let them take my daughter. This has become a bigger conflict than I intended. Can I roll my eyes farther back? My fiancé and I both think we're in the right for wanting a child-free wedding, but it appears I may lose my parents from the wedding over this, and I want to know if I am the right or not. So, am I the asshole? No, you're not the asshole. You're the dumbass. You're just a complete dumbass. Like, man. What? You stupid piece of shit. Am I the asshole for wearing white at my blind cousin's wedding? I'd like to start by saying that me and my cousin, who was blind from birth, aren't very close, but we get along well as relatives. She sent me an invitation, though we don't talk as much, but since I wanted to take a break from work, I decided to go. My favorite color is white. I love wearing white because it brings out my skin glow and makes me feel comfortable and confident. I purchased a maxi white dress, nothing fancy, but goes well with my skin tone, and wore it to the wedding. There wasn't a big party with many guests, but sort of family dinner and small celebration. I really thought no one would even notice I was wearing white. My cousin and her husband obviously didn't know because no one told them. But my aunt kept giving me uncomfortable looks the entire evening, and so did my other cousin. Once I decided to leave, my aunt pulled me aside and berated me for wearing this color at her daughter's wedding. She said that just because her daughter is blind doesn't mean she's stupid and doesn't know what's going on around her, basically saying I brought negative energy and disturbed the celebration by having guests notice and by extension my cousins as well. She gave a lengthy lecture and asked if I hate to see her daughter happy and whether I pulled a stunt because my blind cousin got married before me. I was like, whoa, calm down, none of this was true. And married before me? I never thought of that. I just wore my favorite color and didn't do it because my cousin is blind and wouldn't notice. I argued with my aunt for trying to dictate what I wear, but she defended herself saying I was a guest and should have respected the bride. I left feeling very upset and exhausted from that encounter. My boyfriend said he believed I used the fact that my cousin is blind to wear white, but this didn't fly with her family. He pulled the "I told you so" line and said I just made my family hate me with that stunt. Even though he knows I always wear white, but he warned me that if my cousin finds out, there's going to be some issues. He suggested I get ready to apologize, but I really see no reason to apologize since I chose to wear a comfortable color that I feel confident in. So, am I the asshole for wearing white to her wedding? Am I the asshole for refusing to pay my half of our canceled wedding? My ex-fiancé and I come from very different cultural backgrounds. Our families live on entirely different continents. I explicitly told him before we even got engaged that I always wanted a small, low-key wedding. I know that his culture have huge, lavish weddings, and he told me that this is what he wants. So when we got engaged, we had a long conversation which resulted in the compromise that we would have a big wedding in his home country, but drop some of the other aspects of his culture that I wasn't so comfortable with, or did not mesh well with my own culture. This was not a huge amount of customs we were dropping. In fact, we arranged to drop one and alter two so that they streamlined better with my own culture. We were both as happy as possible with this outcome. We began making bookings, reservations, and paying deposits for our wedding. This was all out of his bank account. This is because we did not have citizenship in each other's countries, so it was far less complicated for everything to be paid from one account of the same country. The intention was that after we get married, it would be much easier to get citizenship, and once citizenship was approved, we would merge our finances, and at this point would not matter who had paid for the wedding, since all of our money would be together. 3 weeks before we were married, his mother and aunts got wind of one of the customs we had arranged to alter and lost him. Through conversation, they had found out about the other two, and eventually they threatened to disown him for being a bad son. They said I was cutting him off from his family and that if that was what he wanted, they would make it easier for him. He begged me to change my mind, but I was firm saying this is what we decided together. I wasn't going to drop the agreement because his family don't like it, when there are plenty of aspects my own family are uncomfortable with. Relationships are about compromise and communication, and ultimately, the first priority are the two people in the relationship, not their family. He told me that if I wouldn't budge, then the wedding was off. I told him I already had made my compromise and I still wanted to marry him under our original conditions when we had spent a long time negotiating and originally felt were fair. He said he had changed his mind and did not want to marry me. After a few weeks, he contacted me asking me to pay him back for half the money he was unable to get back from the deposits we paid. Since it was so close to the planned date that we canceled, it was not a small amount of money. However, since he was the one who called off the wedding, and even at this point, I would still marry him if we were able to honor our original agreement, I don't think I'm obliged to pay. I told him this and he's very unhappy because he believed that it's my fault that he canceled the wedding because I'm unwilling to be flexible. So, am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my half of our canceled wedding? Am I the asshole for cutting my hair so my sister had a longer punishment? This technically happened around 7 years ago, but after newly revealed information, things are tense. Back when I was 17, my younger sister Ellie thought it would be a fun prank to cut my hair in my sleep. I'm a bit of a mover and active dreamer, so when I suddenly jolted, my sister panicked and ended up cutting off a much longer chunk than what she wanted. Out of instinct, my sister let out a scream, so I woke up and saw what she did. My parents woke up to me yelling at her and in turn yelled at her too. My mom took me to the hairdresser and I ended up going from having my hair halfway down my back to a pixie cut. As punishment, my sister had to use some of her savings to pay for my new hairstyle and then gave my sister a choice to either get a buzz cut or no phone and no social life until my hair got longer. Let me be clear when I say until my hair got longer. I don't mean that until it's back to its original length, but rather long enough so that growth was noticeable. My hair usually doesn't take too long to grow, so my sister chose the second punishment as she didn't want to lose her hair. That just made me all the more furious, so out of vengeance, I would give myself little trims at night in the bathroom every once in a while to make it seem like my hair wasn't growing. Eventually, my sister got tired of waiting and missed hanging out with her friends outside of school and asked for some other type of punishment. Our dad reminded her of her option, but it still had been months and my sister felt like it wasn't fair because she didn't intend to cut as much as she did and that she apologized and insisted that while my hair could grow back, she could never get back time that she missed enjoying her teen years. My sister would cry and pout but refused to shave her head to get back her privileges. Over time, I got over wanting revenge and just let my hair grow and my sister was ecstatic to getting off the punishment. Years went by and we never spoke about it again until we had a conversation with our cousins talking about the worst thing we've done to our siblings. My sister brought up the haircut and I casually mentioned how I got back at her. I didn't think it was a big deal anymore, but my sister got upset and later texted me calling me an ass. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for waxing my 5-year-old daughter's unibrow? So my 5-year-old has a pretty thick dark unibrow that is very noticeable. Because of COVID, her preschool was online, therefore she was never bullied for having it. However, this past summer, her cousins came over to visit and many of them teased her for her unibrow. They'd call her countless names, and at just 5 years old, my daughter already thinks she is ugly. It breaks my heart because nobody, let alone a 5-year-old, should think they are ugly. I reassure my daughter she's beautiful and not to listen to her cousins, but my daughter still believes she is ugly. In a week, she is starting kindergarten and I really do not want the bullying to get worse there. So yesterday, I took it in my hands to wax her unibrow. I didn't shape them or anything, just waxed the middle off to get rid of her unibrow. My daughter was elated, looking in the mirror and calling herself so pretty. It warmed my heart to see her so confident in herself, but I made sure to remind her she was beautiful both ways. When my husband came home, my daughter was so excited to show him her eyebrows. In front of her, he called her beautiful, but after she left, we had a huge fight. He said it was horrible of me to be subjecting my 5-year-old daughter to beauty standards. And at such a young age, I'm pushing it on her instead of telling her she is beautiful the way she is. And no 5-year-old should be waxing their eyebrows, and I'm pushing the mentality that she's only beautiful without her unibrow. And that my daughter is too young to know what she even wants, and she should have been able to make her decision to wax it off when she is old enough. I truly understand all the points he has made. However, my daughter has told me she wants to get rid of her unibrow, and I didn't want her to grow up with the bullying and teasing and blame me because I could have prevented it. So, am I the asshole for waxing her unibrow? I, 35-year-old female, threw away old photos of my husband, 44 male, with his late wife years ago. He just found out and he hates me for it. I met my husband 4 years ago and it was love at first sight. He was a widow and he had a daughter who is now 17. It was tough to deal with, I won't lie, but I wanted to be with him so badly that it didn't matter. We got married 2 years ago and we've had our struggles, I won't deny, but overall it was a very happy, love-filled marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, I was really jealous of his late wife. He had pictures of her around his home, his family loved her and talked about her all the time. It was tough. I was constantly comparing myself to her. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful. She was a great mother, friend, wife, whatever you can think of. I did speak to my then boyfriend about these feelings, and he even took down some of the pictures later on in our relationship. Still, his house never felt like my home, as it felt like it was still hers. When we got engaged, we decided we would buy our own home and we moved in right before we got married. During the moving process, I found box after box of old photos and other materials. Photos of his ex, family photos, photos of them together, baby photos, everything. Some of these were even Polaroids. They were so old. They had been together for many, many years and had so much history together. I don't know why at that moment I snapped, but I did. I threw the ones with her in them away in the garbage. When we were putting photos up in the new house, I didn't put any of her except ones with my stepdaughter. There was a box of her things and I donated some of the items and threw the rest of them away. I even went onto the computer and deleted photos he had stored on there. At the time, I felt like I won maybe. I don't even know what I was thinking this would accomplish, but I did it. For the past 2 years, my husband hasn't noticed. My stepdaughter turns 18 soon. She's a very intelligent girl. She graduated early, goes to a top-tier school, and is very well adjusted for someone who lost her mother so young. Anyway, my husband's mom wanted photos of her as she was putting something together for her. He went to look for them, and as you can imagine, they weren't there. He asked me about them, and I admitted everything to him as I wasn't going to lie to him. He is very angry at me, and he can barely look at me. I've asked him to go to marriage counseling, but he refuses. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, and I'm trying to manage the stress. He's devastated, not just for his daughter, but for himself. I know he loved his late wife very much, and if she was still here, he'd probably still be with her. He's been in tears half the time when he's speaking to me, and he won't sleep in the same room. I've tried to explain that I have felt guilty ever since and why I did it, but he doesn't care. He asked me what he's supposed to tell his daughter. Some of the material I donated/threw away were really important. I know that I screwed up, and I know that I need to make this up to my husband and his daughter, but I don't know how to. This was such a monumental screw up on my part. I've always been jealous of her, and I did not handle my emotions correctly. I have tried to track down photos of her by other people, and while I did find some from his parents and her friends, her parents died when she was young, and she was raised by her grandparents who are now dead. There aren't many photos of her out there. Am I the asshole for buying my cousin's dream car to prove a point? I, 26-year-old female, work a corporate job at a major fast food chain. I won't say the exact title, but I don't work at an office and spend most of my time visiting and coaching stores and associates. Because of this, my family seems to be under the impression that my job is a loser job, despite me making well over $150,000 a year. I think this perception is exasperated by the fact that I'm a frugal person who doesn't tend to surround myself with expensive things. My cousin, 34-year-old male, is a physics professor at a nearby state university and has done very little to hide the fact that he looks down on my job. From what I understand, we make similar money, but he's still paying off his doctorate degree. I didn't go to college. He has a much bigger house and mortgage and 2 kids. I'm child-free, meaning I have much more disposable income than him. For nearly 2 years, he's been talking about how he really wants a Tesla Model X and how he's slowly saving money for it. He'll joke about how much he wants it by describing how he sees it in his dreams in exquisite detail. Well, several months back while we were at my aunt's birthday party, my cousin made yet another backhanded joke about when I get a real job and make real money, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so beyond done. I went back home immediately after the party and ordered a Tesla Model X for myself, exactly to the specifications he has described. So, a couple of weeks ago, I picked up my car and brought it home. I didn't tell a single soul in my family I bought it. But yesterday, I had plans to pick up my cousin's older son to babysit, and I knew it was finally time. I rolled up to my cousin's house in my shiny new Tesla that I washed and polished just that morning specifically for this meetup. Needless to say, cousin was pissed. He asked me all about it with strained enthusiasm and got visibly more angry the more he noticed it was just like the one he wanted. So, in what I would assume was retaliation, he tried to make a comment about, wow, it must have been an adventure and a half to find a bank willing to give you a loan like this. I laughed him off and casually told him I wouldn't know since I paid in cash, which is true. He questioned me, so I pulled up a picture on my phone of the title with my name on it. I think that was what broke him because he quickly ended the conversation and went back inside. But now I've been getting messages from his siblings saying how I'm a petty bitch. Even my mom said that she thought he was an ass, but I shouldn't have escalated just because I could. And while I adore my new car, getting back at my cousin wasn't as satisfying as I thought I'd be. So I'm really beginning to wonder if I am the asshole here. Am I? Am I the asshole for ruining my niece's birth over a name? I, 29 female, was pregnant with twins a few years ago. Unfortunately, only one baby survived, a little boy who we called Henry, and my daughter who passed, we called her Daphne. My sister and I were close growing up, but we drifted apart. There was a rivalry on her part after I met my partner. For example, she hated that we got engaged before her. She has been with her partner for 3+ more years, and she threw a fit saying she wouldn't attend our wedding unless she was engaged too. So they got engaged, and threw an engagement party the night before my wedding. When I announced my pregnancy, she wasn't happy, as I'd done another thing before her, but when my daughter died, she seemed to be a lot nicer. Because of this change, we made her Henry's godparent. She became pregnant recently and refused to announce the name until a few days after birth. The baby girl was called Theodora, which is beautiful. I was bringing presents to her, and I saw my dad building a huge toy box with the name Daphne on it. When I questioned this, I was told the baby is going to be called Daphne and only Theodora on paper. No one will use her full name, only her nickname. All of my family knew and supported her. I got upset and started shouting, asking if this was a cruel prank. She came out and told me to F off. I don't own a name and she liked it since my baby's funeral. My family are on her side and say, why do I care? My baby is not here, so there is no confusion and don't see why I caused a scene and ruined her happy time, and why can't I be happy for her? They're saying I'm being petty and cruel. They want me to apologize, but I don't want to. So, am I the asshole for getting upset over choosing my dead baby's name? Am I the asshole for marrying my sister's baby daddy? I, 36-year-old female, and my sister, 29 female, got pregnant when she was 18 years old. I am infertile and knew I couldn't have kids, so when my sister said she was giving her baby up for adoption, I decided to be her mom. My sister went no contact 5 months after giving birth. For a bit of background, my sister got pregnant by a one-night stand and she apparently didn't remember or know the father at the time of birth, but when my daughter V was born, a man T, 35, messaged me on social media claiming to be the father of my child. My sister had run into him at a club and drunkenly confessed to the pregnancy. We met up, he bonded with his daughter, and well, that man is now my husband of 7 years. Coming back to my sister, she called me yesterday. Although I was surprised at her call, I picked up. We made some small talk and then she said she had just gotten married a year back and both of them wanted children but couldn't because her husband was infertile but really wanted kids. I asked her if she wanted to adopt and she said no, she just wanted her baby back. I was speechless for a few moments before replying that if she wants to meet my child as an aunt, she is welcome to, and we can both sit V down and explain the reason for her absence, but she can't just ask me to give up my child. My sister said she'll sue me as she is the birth mother. I told her she was out of her mind, and then I told her how I married the baby daddy, T. She exploded, calling me names and saying I stole her life. My husband came home from work, and when I explained to him, he was beyond furious. I then got a call from my parents saying I was an asshole for telling my sister she's not allowed to see her baby. I never said that, and I welcomed her to bond with V, but they refused to listen and said I was being insensitive and harsh and flaunting my family. I now feel bad because my sister and I were very close growing up, and I feel quite close to her situation since I know the struggles of infertility. My husband said there was no way he was letting my sister have full time alone with V, and I agree, but I want to know if I'm the asshole for being too harsh and telling her about T. Am I the asshole for helping my friend catch her boyfriend cheating? I, 27 female, and my friend Abby, 26 female, have known each other for our whole lives. Abby and her boyfriend Tony, 29 male, have been together for 3 years. Everything seemed to be going well between them, but over the last few months, things have started to go downhill. Abby has been telling me for months now that she is certain Tony has been cheating on her. However, she has no evidence, she just has a gut feeling that won't go away. After stressing out over it for months, she finally decided that she had to catch him in the act. A month ago, Abby came over to my house and told me that she had a huge favor to ask me. She told me that she knew I was Tony's type and he would go bonkers if I were to hit on him. She told me that she wanted me to accidentally bump into him at different places that he would go to. She would tell me in advance where he would be and what time he would be there. She then told me to gradually become more flirty over text and call in order to make it appear more real. I was hesitant at first, but Abby was crying and begging me to do this. She had to know the truth. I eventually gave in and went forward with the plan a couple of days later. To make a long story short, Tony fell for my fake advances almost immediately. Within the first week, he was saying how hot I was and how he's had a crush on me and that he wanted to hang out. The final nail in the coffin that confirmed everything all took place yesterday. We made plans to meet at an obscure motel with the intention of hooking up. Abby went to the motel before me and Tony in order to catch him red-handed. After me and Tony arrived, he gave me a hug and started making out with me. Abby jumped out of hiding and started screaming at him that they were over. She exposed him all over social media, which resulted in him getting trashed by most of their friends. Abby thanks me and says she finally got the closure that she needed. However, a few people are saying that what I did was tacky and immature. They're saying I should have stayed out of the relationship entirely. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for tracking my husband's sleep pattern? My husband and I recently got into a big argument about our sleeping habits. My husband is a big time snorer. When we first moved in together, I thought it was cute, so I didn't say anything. But now that it happens every night, I've been getting a bit frustrated. I tried to tell him he snores, but he thinks I'm joking and brushes it off. He goes to sleep first, and by the time I go to bed, his snoring is in full effect. I decided to take things into my own hands and downloaded Mental Tracker. Mental Tracker is a scientifically informed sleep app that empowers you to better understand your body's natural circadian rhythm, identify potential health risks such as sleep apnea, and improve your quality of sleep. All of your recordings are kept in your journal where you'll be able to pinpoint any area of the night you might have been snoring, sleep talking, or happen to stop breathing. My favorite feature is the snore data. You'll be able to see how long you snore throughout the night and how loud. It's really easy to start. Set your alarm for the next morning, start the sleep tracker, and keep your phone plugged into its charger. Click the link in my bio today to download for free.